I'm Alan Ross. I'm the managing editor of APC Technologies, and we are here at the NETA, the International Electrical Testing Association, their 2023 Power Tech Conference, doing interviews. My guest with me is the Director of Communications for APC Media, Rachel Linke. Rachel, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, Alan. Would miss it.
We're just going to have an interesting time with all of these people, and tell me what you like best about these interviews.
The best part about these interviews, I feel like, is that it really brings about a lot of great thought leadership, and I really just love how you make everybody feel so comfortable, Alan. You really try to get people to just be comfortable and in their own skin, and then so much great information comes out of it. So
let's see if we made people in the next interview comfortable. Enjoy. Our next guest is Ken Peterson. Ken is with Hampton. What's your role at Hampton?
I'm the Vice President of our Utility Testing Division.
We're going to talk about utility testing, Ken, but thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir.
Just a little bit about your background. How did you end up being involved in utility testing, which is a huge area of what Hampton does?
Yeah, so actually I started with them in their Arizona division, and we got to work with the Salt River project out there as the utility. Okay. And we had a similar role there. We were one of the first contractors working on their new substation development, so we would come in and test their new substation development. And then later on, in one of our other utility contracts, came up and asked if we would support their utility testing. And at the time, I was the only person that had a background working with that role in utilities and as a contractor. So it's kind of, I just was at the right place at the right time. And then it's been a road since 2006 to current. Been heavily involved with a lot of the utility testing methodology that we use today.
Yeah, good, because I'm going to get into some of that. One of the big things that's happening is we have some problems in the fact that we have supply chain problems. We also have labor supply chain problems because people are leaving the industry, especially in the trades, in the crafts, and they're not coming in as fast as they're leaving. But it really also, we've got, I would say, cultural differences. We got to change the way we do things, particularly around testing. You can't test for reliability, can you? But talk to me a little bit about the culture of reliability, the culture of how testing impacts the reliability of a utility.
Well, most of the reliability that we're looking at is obviously we're on the front end, so we're doing new installation, whether it be a brand new substation or a upgrade within the substation. So we are the reliability checkpoint. So we're coming in and we're making sure it's compliant to the specifications and the standards that the utility gives us to test to, but also the drawings and the design, right?
Okay.
And a lot of times, as we know, engineering's not always perfect, so we are the last point of reliability test, right? We'll come in and make sure that all points are tested before it's turned on. And most of the utilities now, they won't allow a system to be energized until it's proven. Now, most of them, that's our role as a contractor. Of course, the utilities will have even a further step into reliability and continue to monitor the system, but we'll be the baseline mostly is what we are as a contractor. So we don't get to the long-term reliability and, asset management and stuff like that. But yes, absolutely, first step, I guess, baseline, if you will.
Infant mortality is, remember the old, what it was called, Nolan and Heap study that they did? It was most failures in electrical systems are infant mortality. If you can get it running, it'll run for 40 years, but it's that getting it running kind of a thing. And because of supply chain issues, people are having all kinds, so you smile when I say supply chain issues. People are having all kinds of problems getting the equipment they need to be able to establish a new substation. You must have some experience with that. What do you do?
Yeah, so today, literally, as we speak, we're seeing projects that we're having new vendors show up. So now you're dealing with, so it's a race, unfortunately, and that's what it ended up being. So we're seeing new equipment manufacturers being expedited for release to be approved vendors. So that's one way that some of the utilities that we work with have allowed projects to try to meet schedule. And then yes, we had a project that was supposed to be energized last August. So was it March now? Yeah, we just energized it literally.
And everything worked,
at
right?
the end of February.
Good.
Yes, it did work, and there was a few supply chain issues that we had to overcome. But we also had to overcome the hurdle of dealing with a new equipment manufacturer that wasn't tied to original specifications, and there was a learning curve. So there was a gap of understanding, and that was definitely a added challenge both sides, right? We had long lead times, and then we had a new supplier to meet that standard. So that was a difficult situation, but we did overcome the challenges eventually.
Excellent. I want to talk about, because that whole concept of bringing all those things together, multiple suppliers, the specifications from the utility who are basically saying this is how it's got to work. All of the things that you do creates the need for what I call a collaborative team. I mean, the collaboration has got to be there. And if the collaboration isn't there, you get a bunch of silos and then nothing works. But talk a little bit about how, because that's got to be how you all mold the thing together, correct?
Yes. So absolutely, and you get into that where we have teams of two, so there is that collaboration, and we've been talking about that here at this conference as well, and then
you say teams of two?
Yeah, so our test technicians will have teams of two, so there's collaboration absolutely in the field individual teams that are out there, and then we're working with the utility. The utility will have the engineering team that has a checks and balances with us. So we'll take our documentation and it'll go to what they call the startup engineer. Startup engineer will review us, but there's also the responsible engineer. But all those processes, we're talking continuously through the project.
Right.
But we're the last line of defense, right, if you will.
Yeah.
We come in, but we have the two individuals as a team, so they're checking each other. They're having a collaboration, saying, hey, this is the way we're going to process this next step, and that way we have a checks and balances along the way. But then there's our data, once it's complete, is then looked at again with another engineer. So we have those spots and checks. And the collaboration, it's continuous to make sure that we are following processes and procedures that are presented to us, and each step along the way.
In the last, I don't know, decade, 5 years, 3 years, whatever it is, there are advances in testing equipment, testing protocols. Everybody's trying to put IoT in place. They're all trying to use AI and things. Talk about that in and of itself, advances in testing, whether that be the equipment or whether that be the protocols or the collaborative teams. Talk a little bit about that. What's changed and is changing?
Yeah, so and it's a little interesting in the utility world because they are slower to change.
No.
When we work out in the private sector, we get in the commercial, we get in the renewables, we can use whatever advances in software we want. Well, one of my particular, or actually two of my utility customers, they will actually give us a program that is a simulation that will follow. So they write it and then they hand it to us. But the changes that they have advanced more and more to those protocols, right?
Okay.
So we're doing a lot more of input-output testing is added to a simulation program for their whole protection scheme. So now we're testing not just the relay protection elements. I mean, we'll be doing the entire input-output logic testing all within the computer program. So now, but we don't just build a robot that pushes a button and it's going to work, because we still have to set it up. Yeah. And then you have to understand if the test didn't pass, is it the program error or is it a setup error? So that's probably one of the best advantages that we've seen in the last 5 years is the advancement of the simulation software. Absolutely.
I'm going to switch gears on you. I'm going to go away from what you're doing at Hampton Tenor. I'm going to go to you as a professional, as a thought leader. Okay. What is the biggest challenge that utilities are facing today?
Well, it's been something we've talked about, I think, at conferences for the last, 20 years now.
Yeah, yes. TechCon.
Like TechCon and other conferences. But so the aging workforce, right?
Okay.
And I think that's twofold. It is that we have this wealth of knowledge that is exiting out the system, but we also have a new generation. And I've seen I've seen it personally. Some of the different utilities are taking on, they're taking that new generation of person and they're putting them in a different role every few years, which gives them the experience, gives them a taste,
Right.
and then maybe they'll adapt to one of those roles over time. But I've seen it personally. It's getting the young generation excited. We don't have, hey, you're going to work, for the next 30 years at utility A or testing company V. That's not what we see today. So you have people that are coming in. So now we, employee retention, and then we do training and development all over again, because your test technician comes in for 2 years, he or she leaves. Then we start over, and that's not okay. And that is probably the biggest challenge I see is when you do have a revolving door. We don't have it too bad where I personally work today, but I see it out there in other, fellow peer companies, some of the utilities, they're struggling, bringing in and educating the younger generation and say, this is something that's not going away. We all want to turn the light on.
Oh, absolutely. And it's getting more complex with, distributed energy, EVs are the demand curve is going up for electricity now. And so that creates all kinds of supply chain problems. It's not just the equipment, it's also the people. Is it just the engineers, or is it the engineers and trades?
No, absolutely. Engineers and trades. I mean, I have 3 sons myself. The oldest is going to be 27 this year, 23 and 18. How do we excite that generation? Well, I think it goes back to all the way to the high school level. Or we lost wood shop, we lost metal shop, we lost electrical shop, we lost automotive, and it's not as looked at as a desirable trade, right? I want to go get dirty. I want to go work in the trenches, or I want to go work for a NETA testing company, and I want to travel the United States. And that's not always on someone's bucket list, if you will. So I think just education and understanding, and I mean the power industry is not going away. And like you said, we're electrifying America. We're changing the grid. So it's job security, absolutely.
And it's global changes happening everywhere, all the time. But anyway, thank you, Ken. It's been a delight again. Good to see you.
Thank you.
We will be back.